Hey family, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the healing nature of homeschool. And it's important to me that we talk about this because I'm seeing a lot of us recreating mistakes in homeschool and not healing, and it's really wreaking havoc in our families. So we're going to talk about that today, if you don't mind. So you guys know that we wrote our second book, which is The Animal Learning Method. And one of the things that is a big deal for us in there is to talk about how before we can really homeschool our kids, we need to make sure we begin the healing process in ourselves. Some call it detoxing, some call it deschooling. I'm going to say that we just need to start healing, okay? Because if we don't, then our mindsets are going to start recreating the same issues that we experienced in our own life. And we don't mean to, but you got to understand how human beings are wired. We create patterns, and the patterns that we have from our youth are going to replay themselves in our adult life. They're going to replay themselves with our children unless we become aware of them and deliberate in trying to prevent them. I've had two different people who started reading this book and have said that they couldn't get past page 10. And it's because that's where we start really examining what we're doing with our children, what we're creating in our lives. You know, we're not really aware of how our actions create the life that we have. One of the moms said to me that they do everything different from their parents. Everything. They did it on purpose. But when they look at their children are still anxious and shy and quiet and insecure. And that's how they were as a child. So the question is, how did she end up with a shy, quiet, insecure, anxious child, even though she was doing everything different than her own parents did? Right? How did that happen? Now, some folks might say that's a generational curse, but you know what? It's really not. It's just a pattern. Because even though we try to do things differently on a conscious level, our subconscious is still communicating information to our children, and then they follow that, right? So it doesn't matter how much you want to believe that what you're doing is going to create a different outcome in your children. If you don't do this healing, y'all, it's really not. You're going to create the exact same issues in your children. You're going to see your issues. You're going to see your spouse's issues. Those little jokers are just going to be just like you. And when they grow up, they're going to need healing too. So it's really important that at this point, we just work on healing ourselves. We have to. And that's what I love most about homeschooling, because you actually have the time to work on that healing. So I wrote down some notes, things we're going to talk about, how you can get to that point. So the first thing is, I'm going to ask you how you feel right now. How do you feel? Do you feel confident? Do you feel self-assured? Or do you feel anxious and doubtful? In the middle of the day when nothing else is going on, how do you feel? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling like life isn't going the way you want it to? Or are you feeling like you got this and you're rocking it out? How do you feel? Because how you feel is going to be the beginning stages of whether or not you're healed. Healing creates peace. Nobody can disturb you. It creates vision. It's creativity. And if any of those things are lacking, if you're asking, what do I do? How do I do it? Can somebody tell me what's going on? Like, I just feel like I don't have any ideas. That might be a sign you need some healing. If you're not confident in yourself, in your own abilities, you might need some healing. I had a dad come visit us at the farm. And I said, hey, if you want to take a chick home, you can do that. And he's like, oh, we're just going from 0 to 100, huh? I just came out here for a visit and you're trying to give me a chick. And I was like, well, it's not like that's foreign, because did you know exactly what you were doing before you had your child? And he was like, well, you're right about that. I said, sometimes we need to throw ourselves into the deep end of that pool, because it is really a matter of sink or swim. And when it comes to homeschooling and healing, sometimes we just got to get in there and say, look, I just don't like the way it's going right now. I got to fix it. So I'm just going to dive in with both feet and we're just going to see what happens. Because it's life. And it is what you create it to be. So that's what you're going to have to do. And you're going to have to ask yourself, why do I need to do this? Why is it my responsibility? My parents jacked me up and now I'm jacking my kids up. It's like I can't win. I get it. But you're going to have to trust yourself. And as my son reminds me all the time, trust the process. You really do. And you can't blame anyone, not your parents and certainly not yourself. If you are feeling that your parents owe you an explanation, or they owe you even better, an apology, then I just want you to think about what they endured. Just think for a minute. You thought you had it bad. Imagine what they had, right? Imagine how they had to live that connected to slavery times. Imagine what their life was like during the civil rights movement. Just imagine. Imagine how much time you'd waste just by blaming everybody, blaming yourself. That's not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to be helpful at all. I'm telling you, beloveds, have a little empathy. Understand that life was hard for all of our ancestors, but that you, in this moment in time, can change all of that. You can change the course of your family's destiny just by deciding that you're going to heal yourself. Don't worry about healing anybody else right now. Don't worry about fixing the kids. Let's focus on healing ourselves. Because if we do that, the kids, just like they learned to recreate our reality, they'll learn to recreate something better, right? So just focus on yourself right now. Because we really have to heal. We really do. So how do you heal through homeschooling? All right, let's get into it. First thing, live in the present. Live in the present, in the moment. Be present. I've had people who will tell me things like, well, I just don't know what to do with my kids. And I'm thinking, okay, be present with them. Pay attention to your surroundings. Engage with them in whatever is going on in that moment. Live right now. That's the hardest thing to do, because you're worried about the next thing or the thing that happened before or what you forgot. Be present, right? Enjoy what's going on right now. Be curious. Explore. Live. Learn something new. Enjoy yourself. It's just that simple. It's hard, but it's simple. Just be in the moment. All right, next thing. When you do find yourself getting triggered, own that trigger, look it right in the face, and say, okay, that's me. Now, why did I just get triggered? I've had so many people who, when things bother them or upset them, the first thing they want to do is figure out who bothered them, why somebody else bothered them, and whose fault it is. Again, we're placing blame, because that's the natural thing to do, because that's what we saw our parents do. Nobody really took ownership of that feeling. So now when you're triggered, somebody starts to upset you, or you're feeling anxious, you're going to stop. You're going to be like, ooh, okay, what just happened that triggered me? Why did I just get triggered? It's not why did somebody else trigger me? It's why did I just get triggered? What just happened here? Somebody either silenced my voice. I'm going to tell you my triggers. Somebody either silenced my voice. They didn't listen to me. That was a big deal for me when I was growing up, not being heard, right? I developed all sorts of miscommunication problems because of not being heard and not being understood. So for me, when I'm in that situation and I start feeling myself getting triggered, I know it because I'll start talking louder. I'll start interrupting people when they speak. And instead, what I need to do is say, okay, I'm not feeling heard. So we can either table this discussion and come back to it later when I feel like you can hear me and understand what I'm trying to say, or maybe I can communicate it more effectively. Or we're going to need to try a different way of talking right now so that I can make sure I feel heard. Has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me and what my boundaries are and what I'm willing to accept and not accept about how I live my life. If I'm talking to somebody and they're constantly ignoring me, they're constantly not listening to me, I have a choice. And it's not to change them. My choice is I'm either not going to speak to them anymore, or I'm going to learn to speak to them in ways where I don't have that personal interaction. I might email them, I might write it down, I might do something else, leave them a voicemail message, but I won't necessarily have to speak to them, right? There are things that I can do because my life is my life. It's my boundaries. I get to create the life I want, and I get to allow people into my presence that I want. And if they're not listening to me, they don't have to be there. Right? They don't have to be there. I don't have to put up with that. And I'm teaching my children, you don't have to put up with anybody in your life that is not for you. You really don't. Okay. So address your triggers. And then the next thing is forgive yourself. Listen, you're healing. There's no perfection in this. There's no getting it right the first time. You're going to have to try again. But it's okay. Forgive yourself. Accept that you're going to screw this up. At least for a minute. Accept that you're going to say or do something that's going to trigger your kids. Never be afraid to just say, you know what, I apologize. I'm working through some things, but I'm working on it to make sure that you have a better chance at this, right? So just work with me. If I start to get triggered, you know what, help me out. Let me know, like a little symbol, like touch your nose, like, oh, you're being triggered again, or pull your ear or something. Help me out. Your family is there to help you. If you had a physical illness like a broken leg, you know they would help you get stuff, reach stuff on a shelf, or go someplace for you. But when you're having this emotional work that needs to be done, give them the opportunity to help you, right? This is not something you want to do on your own because your family unit needs to come together. That's really the goal here, for you guys to build your own tribe, make it strong so it can withstand all the crazy stuff going on in the world. So whenever it is that you have a trigger, however you respond to it, just say, I apologize. I don't like using the word I'm sorry. I'll try something else because I don't want to speak anything out of my mouth that puts me in a depressed state, right? Like, oh, I'm just so bad at this. No, you're working on some things. I'll say, ooh, my bad. Not I'm bad, but my bad. Yeah, still working on that. And it's okay. What would you rather have? A person who acknowledges their issues and is really working to correct them, or a person who never acknowledges they do anything wrong and is always telling you it's somebody else's fault? Who would you rather have in your life? Okay, so then just don't be that person. Don't be that person that's always trying to look for somebody else to be responsible for what you've got going on in your life, you know? Okay. Next thing, document your growth, y'all. Listen, journal. When I was studying psychology, this psychologist, Charles Jung, he had this thing called a Red Book. And in the Red Book, he wrote all of his evil thoughts. You know, like when you think, oh my gosh, I just wish they would go away. Like if I could blink and the earth would open and swallow them, I would totally do that. Like that book is where he wrote all those thoughts. And it was for no one else to read, but it was for him to kind of get it out. Because you're going to need to get it out some kind of way. So document is what I would recommend. Journal. You don't have to share every thought you have with everybody. Some people love to talk. I will talk to myself in the mirror. I will record myself and play it back later. But document what your thoughts and feelings are, because you need to be able to go back later and measure growth. So it might be that you're going through your journals and you're like, man, I'm really struggling with not procrastinating, with making my yes, yes and my no, no. And if I'm struggling with that, I got to really find out where that came from. You know, is it because people always let me down in my life? So I feel like, okay, well, nobody's consistent for me, so I'm not going to be consistent for anybody else. And if that's the case, then my inconsistency is damaging me because I'm not a genuine person. I'm not authentic if I can't be consistent, right? So for myself, I'll say my yes is yes and my no is no, and I'll work on that. Document it so that when you grow, you can be like, man, I remember when I struggled with that, but I've leveled up now and I'm not going to have those issues anymore. All right. Next, make choices that make you happy. My son is really into these choice manuals, okay? And he loves creating these stories where people can choose to do something or something else. And depending on what choice you make, the story goes in one or another direction. I think it's so much like life. I love it. But one day he was like really struggling with trying to figure out how to work it out in the book to make the choices work. And he was like, well, I mean, it could be this and it could be that and it could be this. And there were so many choices. It was really overwhelming. So then he says, you know what? He told me he put it away and he went and he meditated and he started reading some other people's books. And then it came to him, listen, I'm making it too hard. It really boils down to just two choices. The first choice gets me closer to the goal, and the second choice gets me further away. That's it. Think about the simplicity in your life choices. It's either you're going to do something that makes you happy, that makes you grow, that makes you excited, that makes you joyful, or you're not. You're going to do something that's going to make you feel resentful. You're going to do something that makes you feel useless. You're going to do something that makes you feel miserable or used or impatient. So what's your choice? And just keep making the choices that lead you closer to happiness. Listen, you have to have a time of rest, but your kid might need to go someplace. Okay? Here's the choice. I either take them and miss out on my quiet time, or I say I'm not taking you because my quiet time is important, right? If you're going to choose quiet time, then say, okay, I choose quiet time. What else can we do to get you what you need because I'm choosing quiet time? Me saying yes to my quiet time doesn't have to mean I'm saying no to you. My quiet time is important. I'm not going to push it off because as soon as you push it off the first time, y'all already know you're going to push it off again, right? So honor it. Nope, that time is sacred. Let me get you an Uber, catch the bus, learn how to drive, ask a friend, I'll pay for their gas. Get your brother to take you. What's up? What are we going to do? Make the choices, like really honor the choices that make you happy. Just that simple. Honor the choices that make you happy. All right. Last one. Love yourself, man. You're an awesome person. Love yourself. You're cool. You're fun to be around. You know, you've got a lot of interesting things about you. Love yourself. Before you ask anybody else to love you or see the amazing qualities that you have, you find them. You love you. Date yourself. Go on out. Enjoy yourself. Doing the things that make you happy. Do the things that make you feel loved. Yeah. Because I promise you, most of us don't do that. Most of us are not taking the time to paint our nails or dress up and go someplace nice or enjoy a fancy dinner or, any of those things, get a massage, any of those things that would make us feel like we're loved and valuable. We're not really doing that. We're just homeschooling. We're keeping the house clean. We're cooking meals. We're doing all of those things. But is that really what you want your whole life to be about? Is that it? Why not take some time to really create, to craft, just like the creator, just craft the life that you want. That's it. Love yourself through it. With all your flaws, all your warts, your child can be completely a pain in the neck, but you're still going to love them. You're still going to do things for them. You're still going to sit and listen to them. Well, do those things for yourself too. It's just that easy. Because if not, you're going to recreate those traumas. Your kids are going to see it. They're going to model it. And the next thing you know, you've got 3 or 4 more generations before somebody is really strong enough to even try to heal. Yeah. So no pressure or anything, but get it together. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I love you very much. Thanks for sticking around. Happy homeschooling.